I was lucky enough to catch the world premiere of the Book of Clarence at London Film Festival. This is Jeymes Samuel's follow-up to The Harder They Fall, which was released a couple of years back, which I think is a great film, very underrated. Does his sophomore feature deliver? Let's find out. So I'll start by saying Jeymes Samuel's seems to just be throwing everything at the wall to sort of see what sticks. It does make for a very messy, very disjointed, quite chaotic, rambling film. But a lot of the stuff he is throwing out there to the audience does work and it does stick. So I'm a little conflicted about this film. I think that where the film falters is when it tries to lean into more traditional narrative elements, stuff that we've seen before. I think Samuels is clearly very interested in just telling these ideas and telling themes and getting a message out there. It seems like a film with a lot of purpose to it. And it is very angry. It's very brash, it seems. And it's not subtle in the messages that it's trying to convey. It creates very interesting parallels between modern racial tensions and I guess Roman sort of racial tensions in forms like police brutality, bigotry, how class influences racism. And he seems very interested in exploring these ideas. I don't know if necessarily the traditional narrative structure was the best way to go about doing it. I would have rather it just been a series of vignettes exploring moments from this character's life, as it is for the most part. I do think the pacing is sort of slightly hindered by the fact we do have to keep jumping to elements that aren't strictly necessary to the story, and I don't think add very much that we haven't already seen, and add sort of quite generic stuff to a film that is, on the whole, very distinctive, very bold, very unique. So there are some problems there in terms of just the way it was structured. I think the way it was cut together, potentially some of the scenes were in the wrong order, maybe. I don't know. It could have just done with a bit of refining, a bit of restructuring. This potentially could have gone through a couple more drafts. And then maybe I think we could have got a very, very good project out of it. As it is, though, I do think there is a lot to really like in it. I think the cast is great. It's very young. It's very diverse. It's very fun. There are a couple of surprises. So I would go in blind. I wouldn't look at a cast that's going in. I think a lot of there's quite a few reveals that are very comedic and would work better if you just don't know that it's coming. LaKeith Stanfield is great. I genuinely think he is one of the best acting talents that we have currently working today. He's multi-rolling in this, which was a surprise, but also he's great at that, funny enough. And he delivers the comedy and the emotion. He is really at the heart of the film, the character arc that he undergoes. And again, it's not subtle in the way that it is portraying this. I think in the similar way to sort of Don't Look Up or even Barbie, although to a lesser extent than this year, that the sort of deliberate lack of subtlety actually adds to the tone of it. I think it's a film that has a very strong grasp of tone. It knows what it wants to be. Samuel clearly had a very strong vision for the film. A lot of the humor really works on point. I would definitely, if you can seek out a theatrical experience for this one, I think in a crowd, a lot of the jokes would really work better. A lot of the jokes would really land. And as I say, yeah, I think this is a film that has a lot of vision to it, a very, very strong reason to exist, and that goes in terms of visuals as well. I think Samuel takes what he was doing in The Harder They Fall and expands on it here with a bigger budget, with a more ambitious story. You know, he's using fairly unconventional editing techniques. He's using fairly unconventional cinematography techniques, but it all works and it all creates this very stylistically bold and unique vision, which I think is great. It's a very stylish, fun film in that regard, and it is a fun film in general. As I say, the comedy is all there, and it manages to develop an energy throughout. Like, it begins very strong. It's really in your face, really brash. And it keeps that going throughout. As I said, the pacing maybe in terms of structurally, like where elements come at certain times, it is hindered a little bit, but on the whole, it manages to keep the energy throughout. And it is long. It does drag in points, but I do think you are compelled from beginning to end, just because you're excited to see where the film goes next. It's constantly unpredictable. It is constantly leaving you thinking, where is this going to go? And usually the directions that Samuel decides to take the story are interesting ones and do go to some very interesting places. I think the score is also really worth mentioning. I don't remember the exact quote, but when introducing the film, Samuel said that he sees the music and hears the film. And I really do think that's very applicable to this film in particular. Like, he uses the score and he uses soundtrack to convey what he is trying to do, to convey the comedy in moments, to convey the emotion in moments. And it really becomes sort of a character within itself, if that's not too cliche a thing to say. So yeah, the score is definitely something that's worth highlighting. As I say, I think it's a fun time throughout. I think a lot of people will gain a lot from this film. It may not all come together. It may need a bit of refining, but it is still a fairly strong recommendation from me. It's just a very fun film. It's a very fun time. You're not going to see much like it this year or next year, I guess, because it's releasing in January. But yeah, I'd highly recommend checking it out. As I say, in a theatrical experience, I think would make it would be the optimal experience to view this film, and especially with the production design as well and all those kind of stuff. It's a very beautiful film to look at and a very ambitious film in what it is trying to do technically. So yeah, very ambitious, perhaps a little too much in parts. I'd be looking at probably a solid 7 out of 10 for this film. There are problems there, definitely, with the film. I don't think it is quite consistent as The Harder They Fall. I would say that is probably a better film in general, but this is a very strong follow-up from Samuel, and I'm excited to see where his career develops further. I guess that is probably it for the review. Let's talk about awards now. And awards chances are very limited for this film. I mean, it's a January film. That's never a good sign. Not from a very high-profile distributor. And fundamentally, at its core, it's just not a very Academy-friendly film. In the tone, in the story it's telling. I think it's a very fun film. I think all the satire works. But it's not really an Academy sort of film. It's not the film that they would go for. Having said that, it's still a very worthwhile watch. I would definitely recommend checking it out when it is released. So yeah, solid recommendation for me. Solid film. Excited to see where he goes further. That will just about do it though. Only a short review here, but there's plenty more stuff to look forward to. There's another London Film Festival review I'll be doing soon for the holdovers. Trevor's in Chicago Film Festival, so there'll be lots of reviews coming there. Plus the sort of usual awards predictions. We're doing an Oscar October update. Should be fun, plus regular news, reviews, stuff like that. So plenty to look forward to. You can support the SAG strikes in the description down below. Don't have to say WJ strikes anymore, thankfully, because that is now over. The writers got what they wanted. Brilliant news. And you can also support us on social media if you do so wish, also in the links in the description. But thank you all for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.